Welcome to Cents and Sensibility, where we like to talk about money without the stress. My name is Chris, and I'm here today with my good friend
Michael.
Thank you for joining us today, Michael. I know it's been a really uphill battle trying to get our schedules to align to get you on here on our Debt Horror Stories podcast. But thank you. Could you give us a little intro?
Again, my name is Michael. I'm a certified debt consultant here, and my job is to make paying off debt a lot easier and helping clients find the road to becoming financially free and debt free.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, we've had, I think it was like Luke, Michael Harrison, Cambria, Nicole from Done With Debt, and they've all been pretty solid people, very like informative. And for me, it's always like funny to hear stories about how, like, I guess this one's debt just being a slippery slope, but more so just kind of like how crazy it gets, and then the stories obviously like people or situations that people find themselves in. But I guess for me, to kick things off, like, obviously you probably deal with a lot of people. What's the wildest kind of like debt situation you've ever seen or ran into that kind of had you like really just like second guess humanity, if you will?
Well, I had a client once. This is kind of a true story. A client once that had probably $85,000 in credit card debt.
Yeah.
All maxed out on credit cards. And I asked him, I said, what led to this debt? And he said, I spent a lot of this on a friend. I said, what do you mean a friend? And this was, and I kind of dug a little deeper, and I found out this friend was some female, like, friend he met online. Yeah. And he was kind of like funding all these like little like one-off crisis that she had, right? He's like, oh, my car broke down, can you send me money? And this poor guy got taken advantage of to the tune of $85,000 in credit card debt. And he said he had sent her over $200,000 in total via direct deposits and wire transfers. And he ended the conversation with, my wife doesn't know. So I said, well, let's get this taken care of. Let's get you out of debt. And that was a true story.
Jesus. I mean, like, okay, so, I mean, I'm not oblivious to the world, and like, I know a lot of people aren't, but like, the world's like an evolving landscape, if you will. But $85,000 on a stranger, we'll say, let alone probably e-girl, maybe OnlyFans. Like, I think social media has gotten to a point where it's kind of bullshit, like, pardon my French, but like, where I don't, like, it's like complicated, because I'm like, I'm all for empowering women and, the hustle, the grind, but like, god damn, $85,000. Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, okay, so he called you, you're like, hey, what's up? He says, hey, I got $85,000 debt. He tells you this story, his situation, and now I'm assuming he probably, to some degree, thought he was fine this entire time before he called you, up to a point. But, like, how do you even go about helping someone like that?
Well, we were going over what he was paying to the creditors monthly, and, obviously with interest on those accounts, the minimum payments were quite high, and he had owned a business with his son. I don't even think his son did. These were business accounts, and a lot of his credit cards he maxed out for the personal reason for this friend, some unknown mistake. Yeah, we love a friend. Phone a friend.
Yeah.
So it sounds. I think we just kind of broke down the science of what the minimum payments are, how long it would take for him, and he was in his 60s, so and he wasn't super young by any means, not super old either. But I asked him what his plans were. How do you plan on paying this off? And he simply said I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to pay this off. And that was the struggle. And that was the coming to Jesus moment I think he had on the phone with me with what do I do? And so I was like, we have to provide debt relief somewhere. We have to do something.
Oh. Yeah, that's crazy. Because it's like, okay. I mean, from what I know of like debt relief and the whole process and etc., is like, obviously you guys on your back end have like people who call, negotiate, like agree, or come basically like negotiate the debt to come to an agreement to maybe not pay or pay just the principal balance outside the interest, etc., etc. But like, now I wonder is if the people negotiating with the creditors are like, oh yeah, we got, all these charges, we gotta kind of go line from line. It's like, I'm like, now I'm just curious as to what those like statements, like line for line, what it might have said, like OnlyFans or some like.
I've seen the statements with OnlyFans on there. Yeah, I mean,
That's great.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've looked at bank statements before. We don't typically look at, your credit card statements, so we don't know what that money. I mean, you could tell me. I mean, I've had clients who've used credit cards and they got stuck in gambling debts and way worse things and drugs and this and that, and there's tons of stories at Bert, but that's just like there's to Wall Street, but I've had to provide bank statements for proof of identity, and once I looked and you see like OnlyFans, yeah, it's like that's your hobby, okay, right? Hey, no judgment there, but
yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, for me, I feel like I don't know, like, so I should have signed a ton kid. So I, like, the most debt I've ever had in my life has been, like, I think $25,000 or $3,000, like, not, or $2,500 or $3,000. And, like, that amount to me stressed me the fuck out. Yeah, I was just like, oh man, like, every month I'm like, I got put like $500. I mean, obviously I can just pay it off like right away with like either avalanche method or snowball method, whatever it may be. But for me, I just like cannot grasp the concept of debt. And when like you're telling me this guy's like casually, I mean, after 10,000 I would have been like tweaking, but like I just don't get how people obviously get to that point. It's
I'll tell you why. I tell you why they get to that point, because there's a moment of detachment. It's a swipe now, pay later. So swipe now, I forget about it for 28 or 30 days. There's that moment of detachment. Now I guarantee you, if you would have put $85,000 on his debit card, he'd fucking notice.
Oh yeah.
He'd 100% notice, because it's instant. It's an instant deduction out of your checking or savings account, right? And what people don't realize, and that's not even the saddest story I've heard. The story I've heard it's the common American individual who's using credit cards to pay for groceries and paying for gas, milk, eggs. So why are we financing those basic necessities? Yes, that particular client made a choice to help a friend, right? But there are people who aren't making a choice to help a friend. They're making the choice to have to provide.
Yeah.
And more than ever, every other call I'm taking is that clients using credit cards to pay for necessities, and not OnlyFans or any friends in other states or countries that he's supporting in that sort of world. It's crazy. I mean, the stories I hear are so overwhelming.
Yeah, because I saw something on my phone, or the news will say, I think it was like Yahoo News. I was talking about like the recession, and it was like a viral topic for like maybe a couple hours on like social media. It was like all the jokes about how basically, obviously, people are oblivious to things, but being like, oh, the price of eggs are sky high, but no one knows, or everyone thinks it's like inflation, other things. I'm like, well, the bird food, first of all, but everyone's like blaming a potential recession on like silly little things, being like you said, like groceries, like, or food goods, just general goods, things that you just day to day would need to like get by. And it's kind of like, for me, I find myself in a weird situation where like I can afford these things and it's great. I'm really thankful for that. But I think in like other parts of this country, for the most part, people kind of just struggle a lot. And like hearing things like this, like, oh, hey, yeah, it's mostly people dealing with these kind of things. Like, hey, I can't afford groceries, I can't afford gas, can't get utilities, whatever it may be. It's kind of like heartbreaking. But I guess on the one side of sadness, there has to be some good. So like, I guess my next question would be like, have you had like a like, has there been like a good like success story where you're like, hey, you had a client or a lead or whatever they hit you up like, hey, I'm crippling debt, what situation? Maybe they didn't really trust the process because they didn't know too much. And then fast forward, you then, got in contact with them, or they reached back out to you, and it turned out into like a great situation.
Yeah, well, I've enrolled a close friend into this into our program, and I always call her personally, obviously after our how's everything going, and she notices her score is going up, which is great. That's kind of what we like to see. As far as good stories, I would say that when we provide what their new monthly savings would be on month 1 moving forward, is where they experience not only the initial relief, I say the most satisfaction, because it takes a weight off their shoulder moving forward.
Yeah.
And when you give a client a definitive date or an estimated date of being out of debts, circling that in our calendar, that's a huge weight off someone's shoulders.
Yeah.
And on average, we're saving clients 50% of their minimum output towards the creditors. So on average, I'm seeing $300, $400, $500. I'm even seeing $800 to $1,000 in monthly savings. And I'll always ask every single client on a phone call, what would you do with that savings? Because think of it like you're getting $1,000 employment raise or an $800 employment raise.
A quality of life.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Damn, that's crazy. Yeah, because I had a friend of mine. She and like granted, okay, like everyone comes from different walks of life, whatever. Like she grew up relatively privileged, but like you said, like she got pay raise at work for like I think it's like $800 or something. Which to me, I was telling her, I was like, that is wild. And she was like, why are you so like making this such a big deal? I was like, you don't understand, like $800 extra a month, like that's basically for some people like, hey, that covers utilities, groceries, gas, whatever it may be, and then everything else now is like just for fun money or to do whatever, save it, put it towards like vacation, whatever it may be. And for me, it's just like such a crazy thing, but I think it's good that you just as a general person like are within this like field of work, because then people like you then, let's say, do a good deed, follow up with these people after the fact, they go through the program, credit may have started where they're like, hey, I went from completely screwed, upside down, this is just not good, I'm down bad, to like, hey, I made a friend, I helped someone, I'm debt free, my credit score is back on the rise, etc., etc. And I think then they're like, that puts like good energy to the world where like that person will then say, hey, learn from me as well, and then go from there kind of thing. But
exactly,
I guess obviously there's a lot of people in debt in this country because like there's like 31 trillion, I think, right?
In terms of debt, the debt ceiling is 3.1 trillion.
Yeah, for like
credit card debt. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And number goes up. I mean, it goes up every single day. Yeah. Credit card interest rates, everyone's married to their credit card. Yeah, I don't want to lose my credit cards. I don't want to lose everything I've worked for. Well, it's working against you, right?
Yeah.
When you got that credit card, it might have been a 14% interest rate. It's a 28% interest rate now. Yeah. Why are we fighting to keep something that's working so negatively against us?
Yeah. I mean, like, because I thought, like, I know for me, like, I wasn't necessarily the most financially literate person growing up because, like, family, circumstances, whatever. And, as you grow up and, like, realize that, like, it's like, yeah, you have this great credit score, but, like, your credit score is crap. It doesn't mean, like absolutely shit if you have high utilization because, like, no one's going to lend to you, right? And then vice versa. It's like, hey, you have low utilization, but you have a low credit score, so then, like, again, no one's going to lend to you. It's, like, this weird balance I think a lot of people kind of get hung up on, or not knowing how to do the fine balance, so they get hung up on the score because, like, the stigma of, like, society says, like, if you have a great credit score, you're good, but then on the flip side, like, you need good or low utilization to be lendable, and then all the other things on the back end that kind of tie into your score, like good payment history, lining up credit, so on and so forth. But I guess with like the topic of credit cards, like what's like a common mistake that you see like people common mistakes that you see people repeatedly do that kind of lands them into like this essentially what's the word?
The problem.
Yeah, like the problem. Yeah.
The biggest mistake, and any financial advisor out there, Dave Ramsey will tell you, is utilizing a credit card when you don't have the money to pay it off that month. That is the biggest mistake you can do.
So spending monopoly money like it's real one.
Correct. Now, the purpose of a credit card is to float you for that duration, right? So let's say I get paid the 15th, or sorry, let's say I need to make a purchase on the 15th, but I get paid the 28th or whatever, right? You should theoretically have enough money to cover that one thing you bought on that credit card. It's supposed to be an emergency backup, right? But credit card companies are luring people in with three times the miles, 3 times the points, spend, $200 referral bonus, this and that. They're luring people in like a casino to get them to spend money. So I always equate this to the free drinks at a casino. You've been to Vegas, right?
No, I had it.
Okay, so
It's a surprise. I did.
big Vegas guy here. You go to Las Vegas and you're playing blackjack or poker. You have cocktail waitresses walking around, free drinks. But and those free drinks I equate into the 3 times miles and points and cashback awards. We're trying to get you to keep spending, and just this to keep
Lubricate you. That's
100%. Yeah, they're trying to prime you up and get you ready to go, because now you're buzzed. You have a good feeling. Oh man, I'm gonna get some cash back on this, but you don't realize the interest you're paying daily.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, kind of off topic, but like you're off but on topic with Vegas. Like I heard, it's like I don't know how real it is. If it's like a myth. They pump like, was it like oxygen or something weird into like casinos to like keep you like awake?
Yeah, that's. I've heard the same thing. They also use like a variety of different scents and like hotel smells to keep like it's a real weird science. Hotels do it all the time. I've heard that was a thing. It sounds kind of expensive, but I mean,
Yeah.
maybe they do that. I mean, I've always felt that might be because of the smokers too.
Oh yeah.
There's all this smoke in there, but
Yeah.
but yeah, all the carcinogens you're breathing in Vegas, but yeah.
Jesus.
But the worst thing you can do is to spend you don't have or won't have coming in a short time frame.
Yeah.
And so if you're spending money on a credit card, it is designed for you to pay that purchase off or that balance off within that month. If you start carrying over balances, that's where it gets into a slippery slope and you're stuck with this interest. Now you're chasing that wheel, and that snowball gets bigger than you can outrun it.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And so, okay. I guess then my last question would be like, if you had to give like people watching or anybody like obviously like they may not realize like how bad their situation is, what would be like one tip you would give them to be like, hey, don't do this, do this, and maybe like you won't end up like having to file for bankruptcy, but maybe it's more the option of debt relief and such.
So don't not do something about it.
Yeah.
Do something about it, right? Have a conversation with one of us. Yeah, I'll spend 2 hours on the phone if it takes 2 hours to really dive into the science behind credit cards, because there's an art to it, there's a science to it, there's this, you can figure this out.
Yeah.
But I think the worst thing you can do is to not do something about it. And I think the best thing you can do is to at least have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
That's all it typically is. We have a conversation. Would this make more sense for you? Does this, free up more money? That's all it is.
Okay. Yeah. For me, I always tell people like, I think people get caught up on the fact of like, as part of the process, like, hey, you may not, let's say you don't have to pay your cards or whatever, and like you'll get calls from creditors, et cetera, but like I feel like people need to understand that like if you're already like in a bad situation, like, and someone's offering you help, like it can't get much worse. Or I think the saying goes, it's gonna get worse before it gets better.
100%. Yeah, it will get a little bit worse before it gets better. People, again, like you said earlier, people are so fixated with having what they think is a good score.
Yeah.
And everyone that I talked to was like, I got a great score and I run the credit, and they're maybe in the low 6s.
Yeah.
A credit score does nothing other than qualify you for more debt.
Yeah.
You can't walk into a grocery store and get a discount on lobster tail because you've got a good or fair credit score.
If only.
If only, right? You can't go, get 10% off of a new vehicle because you've got a good credit score. all that score does is it determines your risk
Yeah.
in borrowing a certain amount of money. So if your score is at a place where you can't do anything like that, then the score is out of the conversation. It means absolutely nothing.
Huh.
So what fixes that is, of course, payment history makes up a good portion of your score,
Yeah.
but utilization makes up almost a third of your credit score.
Yeah.
Nearly, a little over 30%. About 30% is what. So if you have high utilization, it's like walking out of the door with your cell phone charged to 2%.
Yeah.
You can't do anything with it.
And that was something I learned like late in life, and I was just like, oh my god, like that's so crazy, And as a concept, I mean, I think it's just one of those things I feel like they should teach more in school.
I did 1 day of credit card training, or lessons in economics, like 1 day. But I feel like it should be like part of like a math class or history class.
Dude, I'm telling you, I feel like high school, without a doubt. I mean, like, who is it? It was like something I read back in the day about like the Rockefeller family and how they created the education system, and it's all built for like to basically build drones. They want workers. They don't want like business owners or entrepreneurs and stuff like that. So that's why the school system is all about like all these different things in regards to like not being financially literate, and more so, hey, go to school, learn all this relatively, I'm not gonna say useless information, but like a good portion of it, because it's like, hey, in my everyday life, I have not used a Pythagorean theorem, things or whatever.
100%.
And I just feel like it's something that should be taught in schools.
Well, the banks don't want it taught at school.
Yeah,
because that's they're making money off of.
Exactly. And
They pay money off of me. I don't use credit cards anymore because I don't need it.
Yeah.
I don't need it. Whatever's in my checking account, that's what gets paid. Yeah, got money left over. That's savings. Now I put that money into a high yield savings account. Flip the script. Let the interest works for you. Got you work for the interest.
Yeah, that's something I got into like 2-3 years ago now. Yeah, about like 2-3 years ago, because I think it was I think Apple opened one up recently in the last couple of years, and they're like, hey, I think it's like 4% or 4.5% or
Yeah. 4.5.
yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Obviously, it kind of sucks that it's like capped at, I think, like it's like 250,000, which I mean,
Well, yeah, but
At 4.5%, you're already getting money. Like, seriously.
to buy that square off, open other account. Yeah, but that's money back in your pocket. That's why pay 28% on a credit card on a daily compounding interest versus putting that savings into a 4.5% savings account. I've done math with clients. I go, if you put this money, your average savings, everything you save from the credit cards, if you put into an account at 4.5%, I send them a screenshot of what it looks like. I go, you'll have $5,000 in money that you didn't work for.
yeah,
I mean, all you did was you left that money alone, let that money grow for you. That's $5,000. Now that's a family vacation every couple years.
yeah. I think that's a big issue or tough thing that a lot of people have. Let's say doing or dealing with is just kind of setting it, forget it, let it just do its like trust the process. But yeah, I mean, damn. Well, shit. I would say that's a crazy story though. $85,000, e-girls, guys casually saying, my friend, it's very textbook, but yeah, that's crazy.
The fact his wife doesn't know is interesting, but hey, well, yeah, between that's
Yeah, that's crazy. Obviously, podcast is being sponsored today by Done with Debt, a team of highly trained debt consultants. I think available 24/7 for the most part.
Yeah.
Or some by appointment, on the weekends and stuff like that. But if you're dealing with anywhere from like $15,000, $20,000, or I mean $85,000 in debt, you have some friends trouble that you have found yourself in, give these guys a call at 888-322-1054. You can ask for our good friend
Michael.
if you want to talk to him. He's great, good friend of mine, good dude. I mean, love to have you on the podcast today. And yeah, any last little tidbits before we call it?
No, I think we're good, but thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and as always, keep your sense and sensibilities in check.